And welcome, everybody, to the 145th episode of the Fact Is Podcast. We're your hosts, Nate Moses.
And I'm Stu Mowbray.
No Ryan Mates tonight. We do not have him on. He has some things that he has to get taken care of tonight, so we are leaving. We are doing this episode without him, but he will be missed drastically because, of course, we love Ryan's discourse and everything that he has to say as well. So you all in the viewer section are just going to have to make up for Ryan's absence tonight, so please make sure that you all are commenting. So let's start with what we're going to be talking about tonight. So we're going to talk a little bit about Israel, saying that its troops have entered Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza City. So we'll have a discussion about that. Of course, we'll talk about Ukrainian officers coordinating with the Nord Stream attack. So if you all haven't heard, it was actually Ukraine who was responsible. Xi Jinping is coming to the U.S. We will talk more about that. And we will also talk about how the U.S. jury finds realtors liable for inflating commissions, awarding $1.78 billion in damages. So before we talk about our week here, Stu, let's just remind everybody, please make sure that you all follow us, like us, subscribe, comment, and share on all of our social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Rumble, which we don't have Ryan for the Royal Rumble, and Twitch. So please make sure you all do that. That helps us out drastically, helps us spread our name, and allows us to get this platform to be reaching people across the globe. So please help us in our endeavors of trying to make this the biggest independent media news source out there. Stuart, how's the week been? How you doing?
Been a good week. I'm doing well. I'm excited.
Beautiful. I love hearing it. Obviously we communicate almost every day just about politics and the state of the world and what we're going to be discussing throughout the week. So, been a lot of conversation and a lot of things that we need to talk about tonight. So I'm ready to get started whenever you are. You ready to go?
Let's go.
Let's do the thing. All right. So we are going straight into Israel first. So Israel says its troops have entered the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza City. The Israeli military said early Wednesday that it is carrying out an operation against Hamas inside the hospital, the major complex in Gaza City. In a posting on social media, Israel's military said it was launching a precise and targeted operation against Hamas in a specified area of the hospital complex. The operation was being carried out based on intelligence information. Israel had previously said that Hamas militants were embedded in the hospital, a claim that U.S. officials repeated. Conditions in the hospital complex have recently worsened as the complex has run out of fuel to power its generators. On Tuesday, the White House said its own intelligence showed that Hamas has used hospitals in Gaza along with tunnels buried beneath to plan operations and store weapons, but it did not provide evidence. We have information that Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad used the hospitals in the Gaza Strip, including Al-Shifa, and tunnels underneath them to conceal and support their military operations to hold hostages. For weeks, Israeli officials have said that Hamas is headquartered in extensive networks of tunnels buried underneath Al-Shifa. All rights groups have said Israel needs to refrain from attacks that endanger civilians, because there has been a lot of talks where civilians have been getting hurt and injured in these attacks against Hamas. Israeli troops encircle the hospital in Gaza City. Conditions there and at other medical facilities in northern Gaza have worsened in unimaginable levels. Hundreds of medical staff and patients remain in the Shifa complex, Palestinian officials and aid groups say, along with thousands of Palestinians who have sought shelter from Israeli airstrikes there, although many have fled in the recent days. On Monday, President Biden called for less intrusive action. Hospitals must be protected, he said. Get this pause to deal with the release of some 240 hostages still held by Hamas. So they're still talking in ongoing efforts of trying to get prisoners essentially traded between Hamas and Israel. On Tuesday, officials at Al-Shifa reported that the hospital had buried 170 people in a mass grave without power to operate incubators or other life-saving medical equipment. Hospital officials say the bodies are decomposing in the courtyard and babies are dying. Holy crap. That is some pretty hard stuff to talk about right there. That's a tough pill to swallow. There is no food, no water, or patients or staff at Al-Shifa, according to the Palestinian health officials. Our staff is saying there is no electricity. An emergency coordinator for Doctors Without Borders, which has several medical teams working at the hospital. People are staying in the corridors because of sniper fire near the windows. and that they cannot move any of the patients to ambulances. There are more than 600 inpatients at Al Shifa, including 37 babies and at least one patient in need of an ICU. Oh, wow. So some surgeons are describing this situation as inhuman. Hospitals have lost access to critical supplies. So hospitals have run out of fuel to power their generators, including Al Shifa and Al Quds in the north of Gaza have ceased to function as medical facilities. Israel has blocked that delivery of fuel into Gaza, saying that Hamas has sufficient stores of fuel for hospitals and new deliveries could be stolen by militants. Of the hospitals in northern Gaza, where fighting has been most intense, Al Ali Hospital is reportedly the solely medical facility able to receive patients amid increasing shortages and challenges, the United Nations Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs says. Across Gaza, 22 of the territory's 36 hospitals are non-functional due to lack of fuel, damage, attacks, and insecurity. Officials report a rising death toll of Israel continues its siege on the region in response of the October 7th attacks, which killed 1,200 Israelis. More than 11,300 Palestinians in Gaza have died, according to the Ministry of Health in Gaza. Additional 196 Palestinians in the West Bank have died since October 7th. For the third day in a row, Ministry of Health said there have been challenges in updating the tally due to communication disruptions. Without fuel, Gaza's youngest patients are suffering the most. Al Shifa ran out of fuel on Saturday. 3 premature babies have died since then, according to the health officials in Gaza. Early Tuesday, the Israeli military said it had offered to transfer incubators to Al Shifa Hospital from a hospital in Israel in a display of what it said was military's commitment to distinguish between civilians and Hamas fighters and its operations in Gaza unfold. The IDF, which is Israel's defense force, is willing to work with any reliable mediating party to ensure the transfer of incubators. The military also released what is described as a recording of a cell phone between a phone call between IDF officer and director general of Al Shifa Hospital, in which 2 parties apparently agreed to transfer 37 incubators and 4 respirators for children. The authenticity of the recording could not be independently verified. So they continue to fight, of course, and it is a horrible situation for these hospitals. So NPR cannot independently confirm any of these details, but Hamas denies that it used the hospitals as military headquarters. So there's been a lot of discussion about Hamas using these hospitals as headquarters underneath tunnels, but they are continuing to deny it. One hospital still stands, according to the aid and the UN. As northern Gaza's hospitals go dark, one facility remains, Al Ali Hospital, according to the UN and Palestinian health officials. Through spotty connection over Zoom late Sunday, British-Palestinian Dr. Ghassan Abu Sitta told the press and international medical community that he is treating patients in a nearly impossible situation at Al Ali. One of the things that they've been dealing with is more than 500 wounded and has just 3 operating rooms, no access to blood bank, no morphine or ketamine to help the patients deal with pain, and physically and mentally exhausted staff. I did an amputation on a 6-year-old yesterday, her arm and her leg. My colleagues were working in the other room on a kid with shrapnel in his abdomen. Sitta said, and colleagues told me he has no surviving family, so now the family in the bed next to his are looking after him. He compared the situation facing the doctors and nurses at the hospital to the medical staff we're dealing with in World War I. He said the situation is beyond dire. Holy crap. That is a lot to unpack. I mean, no supplies. They're getting absolutely ravaged by violence. The hospital staff, I can only imagine the kind of mental trauma, the exhaustion that is probably they're giving in, that is hitting their bodies at this point. What can be done with a situation like this? I mean, how can anybody operate in these kind of conditions? I don't see where. I mean, this is getting bad. One of the things that you would like to think would be off limits during any kind of war, and again, I know you say that and you're thinking, well, war, anything is possible in war. You're allowed to do whatever you want, but when it comes to hospitals and children and women and just innocent civilians, they don't deserve this, and it continues to be more and more violence, and it's getting worse every single day. Stu, what are your thoughts on this? Is there a way out for these hospitals or for any of these staff?
Yeah, it just seems like week after week, we keep seeing an escalation in this conflict. And, week after week, we hear about more women, more children, and, innocent people just dying. And, there's a lot of these doctors working at these hospitals, and they seem to be like they're the true heroes because they don't leave. They stay right there and they take care of who needs to be taken care of.
Regardless of the situation, yeah.
Regardless of what's going on, yeah. But to answer your question, do I see a way out? At this point, I'd, the way the U.S. has responded to it, and the way Israel just, doubles down on their military attacks and their strategy. No, I just see continual escalation and no peace in sight whatsoever.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree, and it's really heart wrenching, man, and my heart really goes out to the people that are in this situation because, those of us, and while we sit here and do this podcast, like obviously we have a lot of criticism, we talk about things, we try to put facts out there to show, the light of all these situations and the truth of them all, but my heart really goes out to people that don't have security in their life 24/7 every day. For the most part, just being here in America, you have enough security to where you're not on survival mode 24/7. We have issues that are much different from this. But one thing I do want to talk about, kind of still discussing the whole Israel versus Hamas situation. So, there has been massive talks about Israel saying that Hamas is in these bunkers, in these tunnels that are all underneath these hospitals. Well, let's talk about that a little bit. So there's a top secret Hamas commander bunker in Gaza. So revealed a little bit more about this through an article here. The Israelis are so sure about the location of the Hamas bunker, however, not because they are trying to score propaganda points or because it has been repeatedly mentioned in passing by Western reporters, but because they built it. Back in 1983, when Israel still ruled Gaza, they built a secure underground operating room and tunnel network beneath Shifa Hospital, which is one among several reasons why Israeli security sources are so sure that there is a main Hamas command bunker in or around the large cement basement beneath the area of Building 2 of the hospital, which reporters are obviously prohibited from entering. So, for those of you who are wondering, Newsweek followed up on this. There are multiple sources that have corroborated that a bunker or basement was built at Israel's discretion in the 1980s. It remains unclear whether Hamas actually operates beneath the hospital as a major military headquarters, even though the IDF has presented evidence of weapons stashed in the hospital. So, there's talks of, again, and it has been continued talks that there are Hamas leaders and command centers underneath this hospital in this tunnel, this very difficult tunnel system, but it doesn't give you the right. I mean, first off, you all built them, so if you built them, you would obviously have the best plan as to how to infiltrate that tunnel without putting civilians in harm's way. I would love to believe that Israel is doing everything they can to minimize the damage to civilians and around the area, but it just doesn't seem like that. The things they have been doing are not justifiable, in my opinion. And if you built that system, I mean, you surround it. Like, understand where the exit points are, infiltrate through those exit and entrance points, and find a way to take down Hamas without going through and actually, hurting civilians. So I'm confused because there's talks of these tunnels out there, but yet, and even if they built them, so then how are you not able to counter it the best way you know how to, especially if you're the one who built it? Does that make sense? Because it doesn't to me. I mean, at least from my perspective, it doesn't make sense. Because again, I feel like you would be the most knowledgeable on how to minimize damage to civilians and still be able to get Hamas out of those tunnels. That's just my thought.
Well, you would think with one of the top funded militaries in the world that they would also have a little bit more of a strategy than just, bombing an area relentlessly.
And not to mention, didn't we send over a 3-star general to help give them information to help with intelligence? I thought we just sent that individual not too long ago, right?
Yeah, there was a general that went over there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know at all. I don't know exactly what the answer for this because it seems like people don't want to come up with solutions. It's like they enjoy the chaos and they enjoy these casualties. It's kind of sickening. I just don't understand.
Yeah, so now they took over this hospital because they believed that Hamas had like a command center below the hospital in those tunnels and areas that Israel had built in the 80s. So I don't know. I mean, from what I understand, I think there's a lot more tunnels. I don't know if it's saying that uh, Israel only built the tunnels that are under this certain hospital. So there could be other tunnels that Hamas have built.
Right.
And these were the ones that Israel built. But either way, they invaded this hospital, and my guess they have full control of it now, and they probably have full control of the tunnels and the areas that they thought Hamas would be in. I don't know if they found any evidence of Hamas or whatever, but we still see escalation and bombing and killing. So now, like I just asked, like, what now? Like,
Right.
are we just gonna, keep killing? Because like we've talked about before, somebody's mother has died, a kid's mom has died, a kid's father has died. Do you think those kids are gonna forget that? No, they're gonna grow up with hate in their heart, and like we talk about, it just keeps, it breeds itself. Violence breeds violence, like we talk about, and you gotta detach a little bit and think about this. How are the way we're responding to this and our actions? What are the long term effects? What are the long term effects of that going to be?
Right. And so actually, it's interesting that you talk about that because I was just listening to a podcast the other day. I can't remember exactly which episode it was. But, they were talking about during this war, are we eliminating more Hamas than what we're creating? And I truly don't believe that we are, because right now, like you just said, with every parent that dies or with every child that dies, with any civilian that dies, those Palestinian people are starting to turn on us, are starting to turn on Israel even more, because you're just showing them, hey, we're going to get even more violent. There is no peace talks. There is no, there's no figuring this out through civil discourse. It's just violence. So,
and how we've discussed on here before, we fund the Israel military every year, and now we see U.S. military bases in Iraq and Syria getting bombed. Luckily nobody has died, but we just see escalation. Where do we go from here after Israel has completely taken over Gaza, and thousands and thousands of more people have died, and there's no more bombing to be done in that area? What's next? Where do they go from there?
Right. So I'm 100% in agreement with you. At this point, we just need to find a way to bring peace to the lands, to find a way to be able to allow both Palestinians and Israelis to be happy with whatever conditions they can find amongst themselves. And they just kind of need like a mediator there, I guess, to be able to figure out how to resolve these things, because clearly they can't do it themselves. Leadership has failed their people, and we really need to get this under control sooner rather than later, because I believe we were just talking offline. It's up towards 14,000 people dead now. So
It's a lot.
close to that. I remember the article we read last week was a total of 10,000 people already, and it's only been a month. So it's definitely not trending in a good direction, and I feel like we need to make sure that we are doing everything we can to de-escalate this situation instead of continuing to escalate it. So that's where I'll stand with this. Any other closing thoughts for you, Stu?
Just, I know the big conversation out there. It's, you're either calling for a ceasefire, or you're saying, it might be, if you're more towards the middle, you're not extreme, you're saying call for a ceasefire, or you're saying, yes, innocent people are going to die, but that's just war. I'm trying not to, I know there's a lot of extreme views out there, but those are your more, kind of honest views, in my opinion.
Right.
But I don't see how there can be any excuse for just, nonstop airstrikes and nonstop killing. Like, how we look at some of these statistics, and yes, we can debate the statistics, forever, but thousands and thousands and thousands of innocent women and children have died. And I just don't think that, no matter what your view is on war, I don't believe that justifies the killing of innocent people that haven't done anything to deserve that.
Right.
I mean, how do you justify the killing of an innocent kid, babies? How do you justify that?
You can't. There is no justification behind that. So the fact that anybody would try to just boggles my mind at all. So yeah,
Agreed.
I mean, I stand with you on that one. Any other closing thoughts?
It's just sad because week after week we see this escalation, and I just fear of, after a month has passed, what's next month going to be like? What are we going to be talking about a month from now?
Right.
Or even a week from now? So yeah, I still stand firm in the belief that some leader needs to step up and say, Israel, you need to put a stop to this. I wish Joe Biden would say, we're done funding your country until you stop this, and we need to think of alternate strategies of, trying to get this objective done instead of just killing innocent people.
That would require true leadership, and hopefully one day we get there. But let's move forward. Let's continue on with this with another topic as we come to the conclusion of the Israel topic, and of course we'll keep up with that week after week, because that is the biggest topic around the world. So, a Ukraine officer coordinated the Nord Stream attack. So, based off the Washington Post, we're going off a Reuters article here. So, for those of you who haven't heard, America was not responsible for the Nord Stream attack, and it was Ukraine. So, we're going to discuss that. A Ukrainian military officer coordinated last year's attack on the Nord Stream natural gas pipeline, the Washington Post reported on Saturday, citing anonymous sources in Ukraine and Europe. No one has taken responsibility to the September 2022 blast, which occurred off the Danish island of Bornholm and ruptured 3 out of the 4 lines of the system that delivers gas from Russian gas to Europe. Washington and NATO called it an act of sabotage, while Moscow said it was an act of international terrorism. Roman Cervensky, a former intelligence official who served in the Ukrainian military special forces, managed a 6-person team but did not plan the attack, the Post reported. He denied involvement. A spokesperson for Ukraine's military told Reuters he had no information about the claim. Ukrainian Foreign Ministry and Kyiv's Domestic Security Service, the SBU, did not immediately respond to the request for comment. The newspaper also reported that President Volodymyr Zelensky, who has denied Kyiv's role in the blast, has been unaware of the operation. Zelensky last week replaced the head of Ukraine's Special Operations Forces. Germany, Denmark, and Sweden have launched investigations into the Nord Stream explosions, which sent plumes of methane into the atmosphere in a leak that lasted several days. Cervensky is currently under arrest for exceeding authority after a 2022 attempt to convince a Russian pilot to defect to Ukraine, which investigators say led to a deadly Russian attack on Ukrainian airbase. An outspoken critic of Zelensky's administration, Cervensky, has said the case against him is politically motivated and that he has the following orders of the operation. He was following orders of the operation. His commanding officer at the time, Major General Viktor Shukok, told Ukrainian media earlier this year that senior military leadership had signed off on the plot to lure a Russian pilot. The Post of the Germany's Der Spiegel newspaper collaborated on reporting and wrote separate stories that they agreed to publish at the same time. Interesting. So all that time of Russia and everybody else trying to say the U.S. blew up the Nord Stream pipeline, in reality, it was Ukraine. And they were carrying out a mission which I guess they felt might have been beneficial to them. I don't know. What do you think was their motive behind wanting to blow the pipeline? Go.
I believe their motive, I guess, was probably since it funneled gas from Russia to Europe. To me, it would make sense that obviously that hurts their economy.
Right, because then now they're not able to export their gases into Europe, and they're, it's kind of destroying their, I guess,
so
sort of their income.
The, economic incentive there to do that.
Right.
And it also escalates the conflict. But also, too, I'm pretty sure Ukraine and the U.S. were saying that Russia did it to their own pipeline. So they were trying to frame Russia and saying it was self-sabotage.
Yeah, trying to blame them for doing it to themselves as if to make Ukraine look bad internationally, I think was kind of the discussion there.
It says, Ukraine did it, but who's backing Ukraine? Who's involved with Ukraine? USA and NATO.
NATO's huge into Ukraine right now.
So you're going to say with our CIA and all our intelligence that we didn't know about it? We don't have nothing to say for it?
We knew the entire time. Are you kidding me? We just... the U.S., along with many other countries, of course, are good with their tactics of being able to divert situations and to make it seem like what it isn't. I think that's again kind of like what Russia was trying, or Ukraine was trying to do with Russia. They blew up their own pipeline just so they can blame everybody. But in reality, I mean, obviously it was a strategic move by Ukraine to, again, whether it be hurt Russia financially or to, I mean, really, I think that's like the only reason you would do that is to hurt them financially, because again, they're exporting this gas. So now, instead of exporting, I guess they just keep it all to themselves.
Yeah, and then you also, with hurting Russia, you also hurt Europe because it funneled it into Europe.
Yeah, so I wonder if Europe now that we found out that Ukraine actually was responsible for this, I wonder if Europe now takes away some of the sanctions that maybe they were placing on Russia to be able to supplement that economic, economic friendship per se, or however you want to put that. But I wonder if now that we're learning the truth, if it's going to affect any of these nations that are backing Ukraine.
I don't know, but I think about, Ukraine's military obviously not being as strong as Russia's, and they need financial aid and weapons and etc. How does Ukraine pull off such a stunt like this? I mean, it takes some pretty 21st century, high quality technology to pull this off. My question is, if, they're all innocent, who helped them pull off this stunt?
And I mean, yeah, because clearly they had some sort of intelligence from somebody, right? Whether it be NATO, U.S., whoever it may be. But with the massive, I mean, billions and billions of dollars we sent over to them, I wouldn't deny that,
we were involved with their strategy.
Exactly.
to Russia.
So
So I mean, we know what's going on.
I wouldn't deny that the U.S. knew about it the entire time, and then how they just tried saving face, and then a year later they admit to it. It's like, okay, but that was a year ago. We're already said and done with that.
Yeah,
So
and let's just play. Let's just be fair. Be fair to the U.S. and we'll say USA knew nothing about it.
Sure.
So how we fund this country billions of dollars? How can we even trust you now that you know you're going to lie about this? Why should we trust any kind of intelligence or anything that you say?
Right. Why would we want to trust anything you say at this point? You've already lost our trust, So
Yeah.
interesting.
How can we trust you?
Interesting thoughts there. Yeah,
And here we are a year later just finding out about it after all the investigation and whatnot.
And you never told us. You never told us once, hey, we actually did it. We're just trying to divert Russia from us or from you all or whoever. We're just gonna.
And another thing, there's evidence that alludes to the USA backing it. I mean, the proof is in the pudding, like they say. You have a video of Biden saying that he would blow up the Nord Stream 2 pipeline.
I forgot about that.
That video exists.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
So you just put everything together and come up with your own conclusion. Look at all the facts that are out there. But yeah, now that we finally know that Russia didn't blow up their own pipeline. Ukraine blew it up for whatever reason, and Ukraine is supported by USA and NATO.
Yep. So interesting thoughts there. Just kind of, I think what we can leave that at. But what will come of this newfound evidence, we will find out in the coming days. Obviously, there's going to be some sort of follow up behind this. Now that Ukraine basically has admitted that they've blown up the pipeline, which
I'm sure Russia always knew.
Oh, yeah, they probably always knew. I mean, I think they wanted to find a reason to blame the West. Of course, they wanted to blame the U.S., but now that the truth has kind of gotten there, I'm interested to see in what direction this goes. Is anybody going to suffer consequences? Are we going to see more sanctions getting lifted off of Russia? What's the downfall of all this?
I hate to defend Russia, but the U.S. and the West and NATO have been pushing closer and closer to Russia's border and their doorstep, and none of this justifies Russia invading a country. But it's like we talk with the Israel issue. These issues. There's a lot leading up to these issues. It's not just a black and white thing.
It's never black and white.
You wake up and it just happens one day. But NATO and the West, everybody involved, the United States, they've been pushing up to Russia's borders. And Russia and Vladimir Putin have said, this is our red line.
Right.
Basically, NATO, back off. And so, like, what you have to look at this from both sides, because obviously our media is, going to tell us, the worst of Putin and, how we should put him in a negative light.
Right.
Which I'm not saying that he's some saint or anything. But you have to put yourself in his shoes too and think, like, how would the United States respond if we had a pipeline and someone blew it up?
Oh.
And how would we feel if, some organization, we can look back to the Bay of Pigs and the Cuban Missile Crisis. When somebody's on the doorstep of our border threatening, what would we do? You have to put yourself in Putin's shoes a little bit and kind of think about this conflict on both sides. And I know our political system, it's not geared that way. It's geared black and white, right and wrong, good and bad. But I just challenge everybody, even in this issue, Russia, Ukraine, and Israel, and Gaza and Hamas. Look up some things that happened years ago, because the Russia, Ukraine, United States drama fiasco, it didn't start in 2020,
No, this has been going on a long time.
and the Israel and Palestine and that whole debacle, that didn't just start this year either. So please do your own research on these issues, and yeah, make your own mind up. But there's a lot more to the story than a lot of our media will lead you to believe.
Yeah, and so a couple things that I'm getting here on TikTok, just for instances, the USA never lets up, which they're not wrong. We never do let up. That's because, and then so they've talked a little bit about how as the U.S. have been pushing Russia's borders ever since the war, but even before that, realistically. And that's because, and some of the comments, that's because Putin has been threatening the countries along the Russian border. And the Cold War, ever since the Cold War, obviously our escalation with Russia has gone up tremendously. So interesting thoughts here with the discussion that we're having on TikTok right now. So please continue to have that open, honest discourse, talk with each other, make sure you're getting factual information across, and have more discussion, because that's what we do here. We bring people together, and we want to have these conversations, these tough conversations, because nobody else is. So real quick, while we're in the middle of this episode, just want to remind everybody, please make sure to do some of the following things. You got to like, follow, share, subscribe, and comment across all of our social media platforms. All of those platforms, including Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Rumble, and Twitch. So please make sure you are following us, sharing, liking, commenting, subscribing across every single one of those platforms. As you all help us out, we will continue to grow. We will continue to bring people to this platform. And what we will do is we will bring unity across the board and be able to have these tough conversations that nobody else is having. So good things there. Moving forward. Just kind of leaving the Ukraine thing where it is. We will follow up in the days to come, because obviously we want to see the aftermath of now learning the full truth. Now that we have 2020 vision, let's see what ultimately happens. Moving forward, let's talk about Xi Jinping arriving to the U.S. This is probably one of the most interesting stories of the week, in my opinion. I actually thought this was probably the top, just because of how crazy it was. So let me see here, actually, if I can do something real quick. No, trying to be a pain. Okay. So Asian leader was met by Yellen on Tuesday in San Francisco. His trip comes as crime-challenged city steps up security. So President Xi Jinping arrived in San Francisco on Tuesday for a high-stakes meeting with his American counterpart Joe Biden, as the Chinese leader's first trip to the U.S. in 6 years drew crowds of protesters and supporters. Xi was greeted at about 3 p.m. local time by officials, including Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen and California Governor Gavin Newsom, two of several top U.S. officials who smoothed the path for his visit. The Chinese leader is traveling with his chief of staff, Kai Q, I believe. That's how you say that name. I apologize for all the butchering I will be doing. And Foreign Minister Wang Yi, according to the official Xinhua news agency. So China's most powerful ruler since Mao Zedong is in the U.S. for days of talks with leaders and CEOs designed to boost confidence in the Asian giant's slowing economy. His third overseas trip of 2023, after visits to Russia and South Africa, is also his most challenging. Ties with the U.S. spiraled this year over spying accusations, trade spats, and Beijing's military aggression towards Taiwan. Against the background of frosty ties, Chinese students and immigrants were bussed to California City to greet Xi on Tuesday. According to the people briefed on the plans, other Chinese supporters on the streets said they had flown from as far as New York to welcome their Asian leader, to mobilize local ethnic Chinese communities and locally based PRC citizens to welcome the top leader in the common practice. it helps project an image of strength. So Beijing's efforts to ensure Xi received a hero's welcome, however, were blemished by scattered protests around the summit's hub. On Tuesday morning, a plane circled over the Moscone Center, where this week's Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit is being held, reading NCCP, Free China, Free HK, Free Tibet, Free Uyghur. Both sides have taken steps to ensure Xi's trip runs smoothly. The ruling Chinese Communist Party has made a flurry of gestures to Washington in the recent days, including buying 3 million tons of U.S. soybeans to prepare for a successful leaders meeting Wednesday. Biden told reporters at the White House shortly before departing for San Francisco, where he arrived Tuesday, that what we're trying to do is change the relationship for the better. So obviously there's high security. This week's summit has been designated a national special security event as leaders for most of the forum's 21 members' economies descend on California. Metal fences separate the sidewalk and the street near the summit's hub, where uniformed officers carrying thick batons are patrolling the area. So obviously there was a lot of security there. I'm not going to go into the huge details of security just because I don't, obviously with big names coming, you're going to have a lot of security. But some of the biggest names in American business are scheduled to attend this week's CEO Summit on the sidelines of the leaders event, including Citigroup's Jane Fraser, Microsoft Corp's Satya Nadella, and Tesla Incorporated and SpaceX Elon Musk. So no names have been confirmed on the guest list for the Wednesday dinner, including Xi. State managed. So Beijing's efforts to create a positive impression of Xi's arrival appeared geared toward ensuring domestic audiences saw their leader embraced abroad. State media reported the Chinese leader received a warm welcome. So we get all this. Of course, he had a warm welcome. And that's, it's kind of like the end of the article for a sense, because it's not really talking about what we want to talk about, because we have something a little bit better to talk about. But okay, so Xi Jinping comes to San Francisco. He comes onto the U.S. soil, and we have this great big old discussion with him. Well, one of the most wild things is that we decided that San Francisco, in their homeless population that they've had, we decided it was more important to clean up the streets for a communist leader instead of our own citizens here in the U.S. with our tax money, right? The billions we've been sending out to all these other countries. So people are going to think I'm crazy, but when I tell you that Newsom literally admits to cleaning up, I put in quotations, San Francisco streets, getting rid of essentially homeless encampments and moving homeless people out simply because a communist leader was coming to our country, I'm not wrong. And I know it sounds crazy, but I want you all to watch this video. So please enjoy this.
Anytime you put on an event, by definition, you have people over your house. You're going to clean up the house. You have 21 world leaders. You got tens of thousands of people coming from all around the globe. What an opportunity to showcase the world's most extraordinary place, San Francisco. Folks say, oh, they're just cleaning up this place because all those fancy leaders are coming into town. That's true, because it's true. But it's also true for months and months and months prior to APEC, we've been having different conversations.
That's true. Because
So we got that video from Breaking Points, which if you all don't follow, I highly suggest them as well. Great resource. People say we're only cleaning up, because of this, Chinese leader coming in, and it's true. He literally said it's true. He admitted to it. So we are willing to clean up our cities based off of a communist leader coming to our country. But we are not willing to help the American citizens or the citizens even of San Francisco alone to clean that city just out of the goodness of our heart, and to be able to take care of the homeless encampments and to help people try to, with their mental health issues, their drug addictions, trying to get them off the streets, trying to get them a good job, trying to get them the proper, whatever they need, education, food, housing, whatever it could be. And you're telling me we're still sending billions to other countries to fund wars, and the only reason we're going to clean up our streets in San Francisco is because a communist leader comes to that city. Am I crazy? Does that make sense to anybody? Am I like, I'm not crazy, right? Stu, what are your thoughts on this? Because I mean, if I'm in the wrong here, I would love somebody to argue this with me, but I don't know.
There's a lot to unpack here. So I'm going to start with what you're covering in the article. You know, I think it's a good thing that the U.S. can kind of try to calm relations. You know, that they claim that's what it is.
Right.
They'll just go off what they claim. They're trying to calm relationships with China. And I think ultimately that's a good thing. Yeah, we want good relationships with foreign leaders. Even if we don't agree with them on everything, we don't want war. We want to try to keep the peace. We can, have these trade deals with these countries and, live and let live.
Right.
Because we don't want them dictating our country and we shouldn't dictate their country. So we shouldn't be involved what happens over there, and they shouldn't be involved what happens with us. So yeah, I think it's a good thing that they can come together and we can, at least visually, it looks like, try to get along.
Right.
But yes, on to this issue, to San Francisco. They took the time and cleaned up this city because this Xi Jinping, the leader of China, was visiting. Now, I am in support of them cleaning up San Francisco.
Sure.
But under these circumstances, I just have a big question mark on my forehead.
I'm in the same boat, dude.
But
I don't even know.
So, like you said, we have all this money going to foreign countries, and I feel like it's been years now, ever since COVID is when it really kicked off. All these inner cities that have just been, there's been a lot of crime.
Right.
There's been a lot of homeless, and it just seems that these states, these governors, these mayors, these local representatives, they're just kind of kicking the can down the road, and nothing's really, just throw a blanket over it.
Yeah.
It'll solve itself. There doesn't seem to really be any kind of resolution in trying to solve these issues. So yeah, like it really baffles me that now, since the leader of China is going to visit the United States,
Right.
which is good. We want good relationships,
no doubt.
But that was your reason for cleaning up the city?
Was because of a Chinese Communist Party leader.
So I really challenge the state of California, the citizens of California, the citizens of San Francisco. Please hold your state governments and your city councils, your local governments. Please hold them accountable to what's going on in the city.
Right.
And it's no mystery that a lot of people have left California. Thousands and thousands of people have moved out of California and have moved to other states in the country. That's no secret. And you see Gavin Newsom, get up there and say, we cleaned up the city because, he's coming. And that's true. Why not just take your hand and just smack everybody that lives in that city? I mean, this is comical to me. Like, yeah, sometimes I really do feel like I take crazy pills.
No, I mean, dude, trust me, you're not, like, I think me and you are kind of in the same boat here. So I do have a couple of comments on here that I want to talk about because it's interesting. But some people were like, oh, well, if we were to help these people, isn't that like a communistic thing? Or, wouldn't that be considered socialism? Help the homeless, which, I mean, theoretically, yeah, when you look at it from that perspective, it would be a sense of that. But again, I've always believed that our economic system needs to be a good balance between capitalism and socialism. Of course, you have to have social programs to be in place to help individuals, but also off like the majority of it being capitalism, where free market's supposed to be able to thrive. So I love some of these comments because some of them were like, America is a living and breathing double standard. Nobody wants homelessness. It's a housing problem issue. Too much of the housing is in private equity now, hands of private equity, which we've talked about because back in 2008, after the huge crash, they had to allow private equities now to be able to get into the housing market, which makes no sense because now we see places like BlackRock and Vanguard who own 40% of residential housing around America. So that is not a good thing. To be honest, any leader that would show up, they would clean for. To be honest, yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Well, to that point, I mean, right. I don't care what leader it is, but you're going to clean up a city of somebody that doesn't even live here, but you're not going to clean it up for the taxpayers.
Exactly.
And the people that actually fund the state.
That's my biggest issue. So we're only cleaning it for different leaders, for different country leaders, world leaders, whatever. We're not cleaning it for the taxpayers or the people who actually enjoy living in California. There are so many people who have talked about they would love to have stayed in California if their tax money actually went towards things that were
and they're already paying high taxes.
Effective. Exactly. They're paying huge taxes for things that aren't even being seen. Again, and it's so frustrating because, well, and to be fair to some of these comments I'm seeing on TikTok, 100%, it's the taxpayers who are making the mess. They continue to elect individuals that are not benefiting them. We continue to put people in power that aren't benefiting us. Until American people step up, get involved in their local elections, and actually take some sort of
problems.
Yes, until you actually take some sort of responsibility for what you as a taxpayer are doing to your local area and how you're letting these people represent you, nothing is going to get fixed. And that is what we do here at this podcast. We go after the root of things. And the root right now is it is up to us, the taxpayers, to actually start changing things around. And until we do, nothing will get better. So please, people, take this and make sure you're truly following these issues and you're wanting to create change.
Yeah, I'm just going to add to what you said. I'm glad that they brought that up because that is what we just try to put out there week in and week out is get involved in politics, inform yourself, find honest people, and try to find the facts of these issues. And when you vote in November, go to the polls with an informed vote. Know who you're voting for. Know what issues. Know what they stand for. 100%, it is on the taxpayer too. The government is at fault, and also the people are at fault. That's why we have to do our part. We have to get informed. We have to vote. Don't vote D or R. Vote for the individual and what they stand for.
Absolutely.
And when you vote in a certain representative, hold them accountable. Look at their voting record. See what they're doing. Hold them accountable. If they're doing a crappy job, get them out of there.
Yep.
100%, it falls on the taxpayer as well, and it falls on the citizens of the United States. We have to do our part. We can't just go through this life and be ignorant to the fact that the government will just take care of everything. No, we have a part that we have to play as well. We have to do our part, and we have to get informed, and we have to elect these officials that will represent us and our values. So I agree 100% of those comments. Yes, it is the United States citizens' fault just as well as it is the government's.
Yep, I agree. So some cool cool things that I have two individuals here, Jimmy and Johnny, that are discussing a lot here.
Beautiful.
Too much money in getting elected. I've been studying modern monetary theory, and once you get it, you can see solutions. Obviously, democracy is a participatory system. 100% agree. Too many people are voting on culture issues, not policies. I can't tell you how many times I talked about that last week, and we were just talking about this. You swing left or right based on these social issues. Oh, should abortion be legal? Should this be legal? We shouldn't be making decisions over people's lives. We should allow people to make these decisions for themselves. We're not their babysitters. They're all adults, and they should be making decisions for themselves. So I'm a full believer of allowing people to make decisions, but the policies and where my money is going is the most important thing.
100% policy is the most important.
It has to be. It shouldn't be about social issues, because social issues should be as simple as we're all adults. We make our own damn decisions and we suffer our own consequences. It's as simple as that. And then, another thing, I love what Johnny's saying here now, but we can't make informed decisions with our media. And you're 100% right. And that's why we need to start supporting independent medias such as The Fact Is podcast, of course, because we love to give ourselves a big shout out whenever we can. But also places like Breaking Points, highly suggest following them. The Counterpoints as well, which are the two individuals who are on when Sagar and Crystal are not.
Glenn Greenwald,
and
Kyle Kalinske.
Who else can we think of right off the top of our heads? Just a bunch of different people. You need to follow a bunch of different independent media individuals to be able to help start to come to conclusions. Look at people from the left, look at people from the right, look at people in the middle, and just come to your own conclusions. Use critical thinking.
Find people that yes, certain people are going to have their own political opinions. 100%. Right. Find somebody that when they address an issue, they're honest with you, and they give you the facts first. The facts and the information that matter. That is what matters first. And then they can give you their take after. That's kind of what we do. Here at The Fact Is, we like to give you the facts and the information and what's going on. We try not to lean one way or the other, but then we give you our takes, and we try to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And, it's like our ideas are subject to change. We think this way, but if new facts come out, new information, we might sit here and talk about an issue, and somebody on TikTok might say something that we've never even thought of or we didn't know about, and it changes our perspective. We got to have an open mind and not a closed mind where our ideas are already made up and they're set in stone. It's like, right. No, we grow, and we have to come to that realization that our ideas are subject to change, and we have to be honest with ourselves and let our egos go. And when you have a certain view, when you're talking to somebody and they say, well, I view this issue this way. Okay, well, tell me why you view it this way so I can understand from your perspective. We have to understand the other person's perspective. So, when they talk about an issue and they say, I think X. Okay, well, tell me why you think X. What led you to believe that you think that is this right answer, or what's led you to believe that? We've got to have more honest discourse, and that's what we try to do here. Just honest discourse.
Yep, I 100% agree. So some great comments again here real quick. I just want to go through these and then we'll move on to our last topic for the day. Jimmy, thank you for the follow, of course, on The Fact Is on TikTok. Really appreciate you there. We can be informed to the nth degree if we are living in a dumbed down society. It's hard in general. I agree. Education's a huge root cause in our country. I wish there were more people in here, says Jimmy. Thank you, Jimmy. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help push and share this and be able to get more people. We do have Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch also going live at the moment. So we got a few people in there as well. Not as big on the discourse, but just watching and taking in all the information. And then of course, he also says, I like Mr. Global, a lot of good apolitical info. So I don't know if you've heard Mr. Global, maybe something we can look into as well. And then there's some talks here again of something bad potentially coming, like a hard rain is about to come in, and it's very possible, something that's inevitable, and something great and big that'll come. Now everybody has to remember it's going to get worse before it gets better, and that unfortunately is the truth. The things get worse before they get better. So until we actually start hitting these
let's go for the root causes, not band-aids.
Yeah, addressing the symptoms of the root cause will never work, but hitting the root cause will create bad times until we get to the good times. So just have faith in that system and have faith in letting it play out until we hit those good times again. So just be aware that unfortunately it'll probably take something pretty bad to get to something good, and that's just how this circle of life works.
If you're going to hold your government accountable and other people accountable, you have to hold yourself accountable first.
Absolutely.
Because if you want to see change, as cliche as it sounds, you have to change yourself. You have to look within and change yourself. So we need to look in the mirror, as they say, and hold ourselves accountable and change in that aspect, and then we can go out into the world and we can start having these conversations, honest conversations, because it's so irritating when you see these people on all these mainstream platforms, and I'm sure that's why we have all these people commenting on TikTok right now. Is these people are so tired of just the theater and the tribal thoughts.
Absolutely.
And I'm thinking about a lot here. I think about the political debates we have that are just they don't get you anywhere. You'd be much, we'd get a lot further in life in our political system if these people sat down like a podcast forum and they got their ideas out that way, and they exchange ideas. You don't just have like a 30-second talking point of smearing your opponent. You sit down, let's talk about these issues and why do we think this is the best route.
Yep.
And you strip it down that way. It's not just this back and forth all the time, and you don't get anywhere.
Yeah, and I agree. And my last kind of follow up on that, it's wild because you'll see just the other day in a senator's meeting where Bernie Sanders literally had to stop two people from standing up and trying to fight each other physically. Like that's who's representing us. They can't control their emotions. They're big children, and we allow them to stay in there and represent us as American citizens. So, just do your research, and it's hard, man, because the truth comes out, and when the truth comes out, people struggle to accept it, and people have a hard time of looking, again, like we were just talking about, self-accountability. You need to hold yourself to standards to be able to start holding individuals that represent you to standards. You need to start caring about politics, because when you don't, this is the result we get, what we're living in right now, and we want to change that. So please make sure that you are following a line of accountability, starting with yourself and then all the way to those who are representing you. So that was the most asinine thing I've ever seen in the Senate for the last week. So a couple people there commenting about that. But yeah, so I'm glad you all are seeing that as well, and just being like, this is absolutely ridiculous.
And like you said earlier, that's why you have to take in information from the left, from the center, from the right.
All of them.
You have to look at all these perspectives, because if you just watch a certain type of media, if you're just watching Fox News, which I'm sorry, terrible source of news, but if you're just watching Fox News, you're getting a very biased very interesting worldview.
Right.
And then if you're just watching MSNBC, that's they're on the left, and you're just
very
getting
biased.
Very biased view, and you're getting led astray, and you're not getting the full picture, and you're not getting all the information and all the facts. So we need to do our part and be students and go out there and do our own research and take on all kinds of information. And if you have an idea, if you have a perspective, have that perspective and idea challenge.
Yep.
Just keep challenging your ideas. Why do I think this? Why do I have this idea? Could this idea, be wrong potentially? Why does this person think this? Just don't be afraid to challenge your political views and challenge your perspective. That's all I have to say.
No, I agree. But even to do you one better there, not only are Fox and MSNBC and all these, do they have their own biased medias, but they're all owned by the same people. The majority ownership is through BlackRock and Vanguard. Like, I don't think people continue to understand how much BlackRock and Vanguard have control of a lot of things. Again, when they are managing half the world, not just the U.S., half the world's wealth. And that is just mind-boggling. So that's another crazy thing to think about. But couple comments here, and then we'll move on to our last section. We got to start wrapping this up and get to our last section here. So at Fox and MSNBC are pure commentary. There is not news. They're just opinion news, which not necessarily wrong. Yeah, I mean, they don't really provide facts. Just anything that kind of shifts towards their perspective and their bias, and that's all they care about.
And that's some stations only people watch.
Yeah.
That's all they watch.
The biased views of media are what makes the viewer feel like they're on a team. And that's a great comment there, Vinny. Tribal, exactly. They love the fact that they feel like they're part of this left or right, this D or R, the red, blue, whatever they want to call it. But the 7 largest media companies in the world own all the primetime media. That's insane to think about. So that's why we're here doing what we do, everybody.
They try to get you emotional.
Yep.
They try to get you mad.
They try to fearmonger you, too. They want you to be scared.
Don't fall for it. Try to find somebody that's honest. Fact check the people you're listening to.
Absolutely.
Look into what they're saying.
Absolutely. So, Vinny, appreciate you joining this conversation as well. And then Johnny and Hans and Jimmy, appreciate all of you all having some good discourse here in TikTok. Really, really appreciate it. Like I said, if you all will find it to be a positive thing, please make sure you all go follow us on all of our social medias. So please make sure to follow, like, share, comment, and subscribe on all the following socials that we have. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Rumble, and Twitch. We are across all platforms trying to continuously grow. You can find us at The Fact Is or at The Fact Is Podcast across all of those platforms. So please make sure you all find us. Again, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow.
So let me hit your help on all that real quick before we move to our last topic.
Please do.
I'll just say, hold yourselves accountable. Hold your government accountable. And like we've just talked about, hold your media accountable.
Absolutely.
Accountability.
I love it. So, and I love this comment. Damn, Vinny, you're hitting with some facts today. Our divisions really are our own plight in today's world, I feel. Absolutely. We are only hurting each other. That's all we're doing. So when we can come together as a team and actually stop going against each other, things will get a lot better when we come together, because we here at The Fact Is, and what we want to do with this podcast is make people understand that we have more in common than what we don't. Regardless of whether you're left or right, we're all looking to come to the same conclusion. And that's just a fact. People want more, again, and we all have more in common than what we don't. So that's what we try to preach here, and what we're trying to help people try to understand. It's always better when consenting adults come together.
Yeah. Not left, not right. Together.
What would America look like if we acted like a team? Great question. American democracy is 2 wolves and a sheep voting for what's for dinner. I love it. All right, guys, keep up the discourse as we jump onto our last topic here, which is even better. So the U.S. jury finds realtors liable for inflating commission awards $1.78 billion in damage. So a U.S. jury on Tuesday found the National Association of Realtors and some residential brokerages, including units of Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway, liable to pay $1.78 billion in damages for conspiring to artificially inflate commissions for home sales. The verdict by federal jury in Kansas City, Missouri, could upend decades-old practices that have allowed real estate agents to boost commissions as home prices and mortgage rates rise, hurting consumers by making housing transactions more expensive. Plaintiffs in the class action included sellers of more than 260,000 homes in Missouri, Kansas, Illinois between 2015 and 2022 who objected to the commissions that were obligated to pay buyers' brokers. The verdict followed a 2-week trial, and damages award can be tripled under U.S. antitrust law, more than $5.3 billion. Today was a day of accountability, said Michael Ketchmark, a lead lawyer in the plaintiffs. The defendants included Berkshire-owned Home Services of America and 2 subsidiaries, as well as the Realty Keller Williams. NAR spokesperson Mantle Williams said that the trade group plans to appeal and seek reduced damages. Home Services said it was disappointed in the verdict and planned to appeal, while Keller Williams spokesperson Daryl Frost said the realty company would consider its options for an appeal. This is not the end. Broker compensations in the U.S. has typically been about 5 to 6% of home sales, where about half paid to buyers' brokers. Home sellers complain that this model suppressed competition by keeping commissions for buyer brokers to 2.5 to 3% range, despite the brokers diminishing the role, with many buyers able to find homes independently online. Sellers said the arrangement had severe anti-competitive effects and made no economic sense except for the buyer broker. The defendants denied wrongdoing with the NAR, saying that there was no evidence agents were required to make offers of compensation at all, let alone the amounts to stabilize, fix, or raise commissions. So RE/MAX and Anywhere Real Estate, whose brands included Century One, Caldwell Banker, and Corcoran, had been defendants but settled before trial. RE/MAX paying $55 and Anywhere paying $83.5 million. Shares of real estate brokerages not involved in the verdict closed lower. RE/MAX fell 4.4, Anywhere 2.7, while online brokers Zillow and Redfin declined 6.9 and 5.7 respectively. The U.S. Department of Justice is separately asking a federal appeals court in Washington to let it revive an antitrust probe into the NAR's practices. Interesting thoughts here. So, here's the thing about this topic. Not only are they inflating the commissions, but on top of that, that's also inflating the home prices. So when you're inflating the home prices, inflating the commissions, and you have private equities that are now buying up these homes, no wonder the prices of homes and rent and everything else has skyrocketed. And realistically, we're turning in more to a renting country than anything else. And you know, we're supposed to, there are a lot of realtors out there that, you know, how can you trust them? It would almost be better, and it's getting to the point where you go without the middleman and you go through these dealings on a personal basis, and you just go straight through the bank. Like, you don't go through a realtor anymore, and you're able to just transfer these properties between 2 private individuals, because clearly you could be saving a lot of money if you didn't go through a broker, through a real estate agent. So just interesting things to keep on top of. Again, you know, who do you trust anymore? I mean, we can't trust our government. We can't trust the people who are selling us our houses. We can't trust our local officials to be able to keep what's best in mind for us. We can't trust so many different people out there. We can't trust our education system. What do you believe and trust in anymore? Without transparency and without the ability to see exactly what you're being given, and without holding those individuals accountable, again, asking the right questions, people are getting played left and right. And it's so sad, because again, it's just, there's nobody out there to trust. And even then, sometimes you can't even trust your own family, you know? So like, what do you do? it's just causing more and more chaos, I would say, across the U.S. and people's ability again to believe in a system that is supposed to help the people. So, Stu, what are your thoughts on this? I'm interested in hearing your thoughts.
I just think about how it's become harder in today's world to achieve, what they would call the American dream.
The American dream, right?
We go and get an education. We go into the workforce. Today, it's been harder to find, a decent to good paying job. It's hard to find that today.
Right.
And then vehicles are expensive, and it seems like they're not reliable at all. They're built cheaper and cheaper, and they get more expensive.
Yep. More technology that goes into it that you don't understand, so you have to take it to these dealerships.
Right. So education, college is expensive. Buying a car is expensive.
Buying
People
a house.
are trying to buy homes, and they're way too expensive. And that kind of alludes to this topic here. But, people are buying homes at a slower rate. So it seems that the American dream is getting harder to obtain in these times. And, the people are going to suffer for it.
Yeah.
So unless you have like this, good economy and good paying jobs where people can afford to live, even food prices, gas prices, all your amenities, your electric bills, energy bills. It just seems people aren't getting paid very well, and the cost of living just keeps going up and up and up. And you have, people in the real estate business doing shady things and, ripping people off.
Not only that,
it's just unfortunate.
Yeah, not only that, but let's okay, so you just mentioned all of those things that cost money, all those things that require day-to-day living. Well, let's not forget about your personal property tax. Let's not forget about your real estate tax, your death tax. I mean, good Lord, you get taxed just for dying. Let's talk about all the taxes you get hit with: sales tax, meals tax, tobacco tax, alcohol tax, name it. You're literally taxed over everything. Income tax. You're taxed for making money. You are taxed for every little thing out there. And then on top of that, we need you to pay even more to be able to afford to be able to live. Right? So they're taking more money out of our pockets, and they're making us pay more for essential things. And let's be real. Everybody nowadays will say, oh, well, you don't need a cell phone, right? You do. If you don't have a cell phone nowadays, you're so behind in times. You're not able to communicate with other people properly. You're not able to. It's incredible how people don't understand that you have to keep up with the times to a certain extent, right? Like there has to be. Now, granted, you could just go live off the land. You don't need a cell phone. You could do all that. But in today's day and age, to be competitive, to do what you want to do, to have some sort of chance of being able to show that you're as competitive as the next person, whether you're going for a better job or whatever it may be, you have to be up with the times. And unfortunately, that costs a lot of money. And it's money that people don't have because the government just keeps taking it out of your pocket. And I am like, I do believe, obviously I believe in taxes. I think they go towards good things. I think taxes should be, they are essential. But it's making sure they're going to the right place, making sure that they're not overusing our taxes, and that they're only taking what they need to make sure that things are running properly, right? Like that's where I'm at with it. I think they're taking way too much. It's not being audited. It's not being tracked. We're not actually getting the visibility or the transparency as to where our money is going or how it's being spent, and it's destroying us. So, it's hurting us as a nation. And again, it comes back to self-responsibility of being able to hold people accountable and being able to find that transparency, that visibility, and making sure that we hold people to it. So, what a bunch of topics we just covered tonight, Stu. How'd you feel about all that?
I love it, dude. I could do this all night.
I could do this all night myself. I could sit here for 3-4 hours, sit here and talk about stuff all night long. Couple topics here, there, bringing in new perspectives, new ideas, bringing in history behind it, because obviously history is a huge thing. Vinny just said, "Great job, you two." Thank you, Vinny. We really appreciate it. That's what we're here for. We're here. Well, thank you, sir, or ma'am. Thank you. We appreciate that tremendously. They said you two are good people. So, that's just what we're here to do. We are here to bring people together, to give a platform, to talk about things. And the idea is that one day, if we can turn this into some sort of corporation or some sort of company that you all are able to trust in, that's my ultimate goal, is because you only have so long on this earth. I just want to kind of put this in perspective. You only have so long, and what you do with your time on this earth is essential, is very important. So my thoughts are that I would love to be able to show people that America is not lost. You can have a good, ethical corporation that provides incredible jobs for people who are hard workers, that prioritizes their family first, and isn't out here to make millions while the bottom line is making nothing. Because in reality, without the people who are doing the physical work, you don't get the product or service that you are offering as a corporation, and that's just a fact. So one day, let's see if we can't turn this into something that would be able to prove to these corporations what a true ethical company would look like. But that's just my thought on that.
Yeah, and our whole goal too is, we don't want to get on here every week and worry about being right or wrong. We might be wrong on some things. We're not going to say that we always get everything right, but
I'm wrong a lot.
We read a lot of information throughout the week, and we pick certain topics, and we come and discuss them. We come and we try to pick the most important topics that we think, and we just want to have open discourse about it. And we don't, like I said earlier, we may say something that's wrong, and somebody on one of those platforms, they have a different view, and we might sit here and be like, you know what, that's you're right, we never thought of that. And
right.
That's what this is all about. Our ideas aren't set in stone, and I know I said that earlier, but it's important, and that's what we want to try to build here. We want to create a space, and we hope a lot of other independent medias and sources do as well. We want to have a space where there's no censorship, and freedom of speech is very important to us. And I can't say that enough. And it's sad that we have to sit here and say that our rights are important. These things are important.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, we want to have this space to have honest discourse and just the free flow and exchange of ideas and perspectives, and come together. And like we always say, we truly believe that we have more in common than we don't.
Absolutely. Jimmy saying that they made the stock price more important than the product or service. 100% agree. And unfortunately, they just let greed get to them. Because why have one Lamborghini when you can have 12? Right. Unfortunately, reasonable dialogue supersedes wrong or right. It sits more correct most of the time. So, Vinny, love that take. Thank you for that. Very, very kind words. Everything you've said in between you, Jimmy, and Johnny tonight, y'all have had some incredible discourse. They are saying check out the Funny Money podcast with Jessica Burbank. If you haven't, check into that podcast as well. I try to take in as much as I possibly can. I listen to a lot of different podcasts myself, so that will be one that I have to add to my list.
Tell them to definitely check out Breaking Points.
Yeah, definitely check out Breaking Points if you all haven't, and of course with us, across all of our socials, we would really appreciate it. Breaking Points is a good one. I have been enjoying the presidential daily brief with Mike Baker. That's a good one as well. So check out that one. And then, some great podcasts and information out there. Of course, Joe Rogan is a great one. I love listening to his discourse. He just brings people on there for them all to talk. Jimmy knows about Breaking Points, Crystal and Sagar. CEO pay is 100 times more than the workers instead. That's where things get wrong, is again, they only care about the top and don't worry about the bottom. And that's way off. Through my personal experience in my profession, and what I've done over the past 7.5, God, no, it's been longer than that, about 8.5, 9, geez, like 10 years.
You're old, man.
I'm old, man. I gotta stop. Being at the right age of 28. What I've gone through in my professional career, I've always seen that when you take care of those who are helping you, you will get better results 100% of the time. You just have to take care of your people, and it's as simple as that.
Empower your workers.
Yeah. So, Jimmy said, dude, you're a baby. I guess everybody has their own perspective on their age and where they're at in their life and things like that, right? So appreciate that though, Jimmy. So let's start wrapping it up. So real quick, just want to say again, Johnny also says, make sure you check out the Onion Daily News. I don't think I've heard of that one yet, so I'll have to look into that one. But all right, so real quick, young buck dropping knowledge. Try to. So make sure you follow us on all of our socials. Follow, like, share, subscribe, and make sure you comment, of course. Join the family. That's what we're here for. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Rumble, and Twitch. Please remember, everyone, to share this with people you love, but also share this with those that you disagree with, because ultimately we have more in common than what we don't. And then lastly, I want to make sure I go through a list of people that I thank, because there are a lot of you out there that deserve this. Thank you to all military personnel, active duty and retired. Law enforcement, thank you. Fire and rescue, doctors, nurses, paramedics, hospital staff. Farmers, thank you for feeding us. Thank you for taking care of us and putting the right stuff in our food, especially local farmers. Those in American manufacturing, thank you so much for pushing American manufacturing and helping us. Those in social work, taking care of the U.S. citizens, especially those who need mental health help across the board. It's incredible. And last but not least, ethical congressional representatives, anybody who's ethical and actually represents us, thank you. But on top of all that, just thank you all so much for the kind words, for everything you all are doing. Please make sure, Jimmy, we'll go back and we'll talk about some of these resources and kind of look at them. But please, again, just make sure you share this with everybody you can. Get us out there, because what we want to do is ultimately what we do this for you all, because we want to have fun. We want to have open, honest discourse and be truthful and honest with each other, because that is what we are here for. Stu, closing thoughts before we go ahead and end this episode.
Yeah. Like I've been saying this whole podcast, with accountability, we need to hold ourselves accountable. We need to hold our governments accountable. And just be nice to one another, man.
Absolutely.
Like, let's stop the hate. Let's stop the fighting. Just be nice to one another. Talk to other people. Be present in your life. Be involved with people in your life. And just, it's okay to disagree with somebody. It's okay.
Absolutely.
It's not the end of the world. We don't have to fight about it. Try to see things from their perspective. And like I said earlier, think, why do they think a certain way? And yeah, man, let's just be nice. Let's spread love. And, try to, we're all trying to figure this thing out in life. And I think if we're honest with ourselves and, we can have honest, discourse and debate, I think we can really grow as individuals.
I love it. That's a great thing to say. And sorry, I smiled a little bit here because Johnny said, I'll disagree just so someone will. We appreciate that. But thank you all so much for coming to the 145th episode of the Fact Is podcast. We're your hosts, Nate Moses.
And Stu Mowbray.
And next week we'll have Ryan with us. Thank you all so much. We really appreciate everything. Really appreciate the discourse tonight. We will see you all next week for episode 146. And of course, we'll be sending you off for the holidays.